Welcome to MCP Stack with GridCTL. My name is Sif Baksh, and joining me today is the amazing William. William, why don't you introduce yourself for the audience so we can continue the conversation here?
Yeah, I'm William Collins. I've been working in tech for a long time. Back in the data center, I was racking and stacking gear in data centers. I've always been automation adjacent. Started with Bash scripting and Perl and Python. And the last 10 years, I've been really hyper-focused on Go. I think it's a great language, but I've worked for a few startups as of late, Alkira, Itential, and yeah, I just love technology. I love building, and I also host the Cloud Gambit podcast, in which you've been a guest. It was a great episode. So yeah, thanks for chatting with me.
No, I appreciate you having me on that. Now, everyone is curious on this GridCTL, or sometimes I call it grid control, because I think that's exactly what it gives you. In your words, why does this even exist, William?
It's funny because I've actually had a few conversations about this the past 2 weeks on different things with different, I think one was a podcast and the other was something else, but I think really the gist of it is, you know the drill more than most out there. Like in the early days, you stood up a single MCP server and you realized, hey, this is pretty powerful, folks. It's pretty useful. And then you're like, okay, I need more. Because the beauty of it is when you start connecting, you go from n times m to n plus m, you fix it with MCP and you make that integration story much easier. So you start connecting more servers, and these servers can be instantiated and or connected to in many different ways, right? So I could have one that I spin up running in a container engine, or I could have one that I connect to that is exposed behind an endpoint of a SaaS platform. I could even have one in my enterprise that I connect to that's like up and it's like long lived, and maybe I'm using SSH as a transport to get to it. So getting the local configurations for this stuff connected with the incredibly amazing variety of clients nowadays is just a pain in the neck. And I, like you, I work for a company where I prototype these things like lights out all the time. It's constant. So I need repeatability. I need consistency, and I need a way to say, hey, I did this demo, or I'm working on this for my own workflow. And, that's where probably a little over a year ago, I started building this, and it was a command line tool on my machine. And I never intended on sharing it until someone convinced me to, because I wanted to use it. And then I open sourced it. And then that means I had to go back and clean up a whole bunch of stuff and make it like, okay, this got to be like ready for other people to use. Anyhow. Yeah.
No, that totally makes sense. And honestly, that's a pain I still see today that so many organizations are having. I got 50 MCP servers running locally on my laptop or over here, or disparate systems, and I can't remember where they all are, so I'm going to spin up another one. And it's like, I've done that myself. It's like, oh, wait, I have 3 instances of the same MCP server running. I just didn't remember it. So when you first introduced this to me, I was like, holy hell, I'm glad you did, man. I'm glad that person convinced you to do it, because it's a game changer for a lot of us out there that dabble with this stuff.
Yeah, it's a lot of work to manage all. Like JSON it's not a control plane. I don't know what else to say. It's a file, and hard coding everything humanly possible in a JSON file is not a solution. It's creating your local technical debt that you're going to be dealing with forever. It's not worth it.
That is very true. So for someone who has never heard of it, how would you describe GridCTL? What is it, and why did you build it?
So I use 3 different examples because I've taken patterns like good technologies built on good patterns that have been around for a long time. I'll use Terraform today. So GridCTL is almost like Terraform for your MCP servers. Like you declare every server your agents can touch in this YAML file, and then you run and apply, and it orchestrates the containers. It wires all your different clients that you have on your machine through that single local gateway. And it keeps the secrets also in an encrypted store instead of, like, that was one of my big pet peeves too, that I would see. Like, I was on demos sometimes with folks and they would have like their own secrets in these JSON files because they didn't know any other way. And making, and I think there's a beautiful balance in that I don't need to run HashiCorp Vault when I'm prototyping things locally on my machine, but I also don't want to hard code secrets in like a zillion different places. So just making it easier to do these things, I think, is really important. And I think 3 properties kind of fall out of all this. One is you have one file to kind of review instead of one per client on your machine to maintain. You have one endpoint that every client points at. So the client config stops, it stops becoming a configuration and it kind of becomes a pointer in a sense. And kind of like one place that secrets live, which is not in that client config. And also under the hood, it's a single Go binary. So the gateway, the container orchestration aspect of it, the variable store, and there's even I still think it's primitive. And this is the one area I had to, when I started building this, it was kind of like around the coding assistance hadn't really hit hard yet, but I was using, I think I used originally, I think it was ChatGPT. I forget which model it was to help me vibe code the React UI a little bit, because I'm not a front end person. If you want a nice front end, like, you can go hire someone else, because that's not my ball game. But that's one. I mean, the beautiful thing about Gen AI is I've actually learned a lot more about front end. I'm pretty solid on back end stuff, so I was able to bridge that gap and put together a very good React UI for this to make things easier for the folks that don't want to be in YAML sometimes. Some folks just want to stay away from the CLI, and hey, that's fine.
Hey, yep, I'm the same way, man. And one, I'm impressed the fact that you actually have it in one single binary. That's insane. A lot of good folks out there have talked about using Go, and that to me was amazing. The fact that you're able to build that. That is such a fast, convenient, expressive language that it's blown up from that standpoint. And the fact that you're building, like you said, you lose ChatGPT for the front end. I'm the same way. Don't know front end at all. I don't pretend I know it. I hate it since 20 plus years ago. It's like JavaScript. Nope, I'm walking out. I'm done. So totally agree with you on that. The other thing too I did like is why did you go after the validate, plan, and apply patterns? Hold on. I think I lost my point here. Nope, I did. Sorry about that. What was your personal tipping point, the moment that pushed you from config hacks to building an actual orchestrator?
There were so many pain points when MCP launched, because it was like it's like a routing say a routing protocol came to market, or something, like a new routing protocol of some sort, and okay, like, what do you do with it? What are all the contextual and tooling and different things you can do around it? Like, a protocol is just a protocol. It's just a protocol. So I didn't actually, like, in hindsight, like, it would be foolish to expect that the folks that built the protocol would ship the instruction manual and all the cool things to make it usable by different markets. Like, it would just be a black hole of time. So I would say that for me, the tipping point, like, it wasn't an outage. And I think that's kind of the point, because usually if you look at startups that come to market, they're coming to market because there's something out there that's like ultra painful, or like there's something in technology that's causing a lot of outages, and maybe an enterprise wants to keep the lights up and they're willing to pay for something that help make that happen, get a higher SLA. But For me, like the failure mode here that kind of drove me to start, putting this together is that of a very silent and probably selfish one, I think, if I'm just being honest. So I had so many of these different combinations of servers defined. For me, it was Claude Desktop, Claude Code, like Cursor, like so many of them. I was prototyping, and each copy was slightly different. Each of them with the same tokens and plain text that people were doing. And I was trying to do some injection of secrets managers. Like I was using OpenBow and 1Password and actually injecting things that way. But I had this really messy thing in the middle to where things wouldn't land on disk with secrets, to where they were just getting injected in the actual gateway. And that, it's just like if I want somebody else to do that, it's like, okay, I got to sit with them for an hour and help them figure out their local setup and all this stuff. It's just not tenable. So the tipping point to your question was realizing that I could not answer a few basic questions. So why can't I easily stand up these different combinations of things from version control using standard patterns? Yeah. And also, like, what can my agents actually touch right now? Like when you can enumerate your own, kind of like your own attack service, like you don't have a configuration, like you're dealing in a potentially dangerous world of kind of like liability at that point. It's just like a scary place to be in. So and infrastructure solved this. We have the patterns. Like you declare state, you diff against reality, and you apply. Like I didn't invent these things. The concepts, they're here. I just reused them in this world of AI, in this sort of niche of building and prototyping stuff.
No, that's actually a really good point. And, it's sometimes those things, it's like I always tell people, I'm lazy by nature, so I want to automate any and everything. And the fact that your personal tipping point actually was the fact that, hey, I'm frustrated with keeping track of all these things. And, I've dealt with customers just like you. I pivot from here to here to here to here. And it's like, oh man, this is a pain. I got to find a problem. I got to find a solution for this because that's a nightmare to manage. Imagine, doing that across 20 customers in 1 week, and you're like, I'm lost. I have no idea where to go. So you found a solution to a very niche problem that I think everyone should know about, because that is massive, because it's one of those things I still run into because I do that as well. I test out MCP servers, gateway, and when you showed me this, it blew me away. So
I appreciate that. You know what you just said that struck me is, you said you were I'm lazy. I like to automate things. I'd rather automate things as like first principles, kind of is what you said in a roundabout way. But I remember actually we met and we were talking automation like ages ago. I don't know if you remember that. It was a long time ago. I think you had just started it at Infoblox or something. I can't remember.
Oh, wow. That was
a while back.
Yeah,
like we were talking like, hey, with the REST API endpoint, you can do X, Y, and Z. I don't know if you remember any of that, but it was pretty far back.
No, I don't, to be honest. Okay.
Yeah, good times.
Oh, yeah. No, to me, that's crazy. I've been doing APIs for so long that when MCP came out, I was like, holy hell, this is actually pretty cool. But
yeah, I think you had reached out about a blog I wrote, or I'd reached out about a blog you wrote when you were there. And yeah, I think that's how we originally connected. So.
No, definitely. And that's one of the things for me that, this is a small world, and I love this opportunity to share what you've built with everyone else, because to me, this is what it's about, is giving back to the community, is building something cool and giving back. And this to me is one of those things that I can see everyone using going forward. And you guys will see that in a little bit. We'll do a demo, but we got a few more questions to iron out here just to keep us on track. Why did you go after the validate, plan, and apply pattern that we see in tools like Terraform or Kubernetes? I'm just curious on that.
Yeah, that's a really good question and a really good observation. I think there's so many angles to answer this from, actually, but I think the big thing is the moment that you decide that, like, your tool has the concept of desired state in some manner, like, you've kind of already agreed to answer a few questions, first of all. So, is the file binding, is it legal? Like, if I hand it to you right now, what happens to what is already running in the operational environment? So this whole diff between what I desire and what is operational at the time. And okay, you know, you get that piece of it. Terraform answers those with validate, plan, and apply. And Kubernetes is kind of the same way. It kind of gets you there with dry run, diff, and apply. And like, that's not homework copying business. Like, that's kind of like shaping the whole problem. So skip one and your users kind of invent solutions themselves with probably like shell scripts and maybe some messy pipelines with a mishmash of ad hoc tooling.
That is true.
So yeah. And it's just very elegant too. So if you have like a single stack file, you have like one file, you have a server behind the gateway, you have the network, the skills, the client links. That's like a desired state spec. So in my mind, like, hey, let's not pretend it's something fancy. Like, this is the pattern of the problem. So that the selfish reason is that the folks I know, like my users, are network and platform engineers who usually have Terraform plan kind of on lock. They understand this command, these verbs, and this syntax. And the part that actually matters is these three commands kind of catch. They kind of map, or I don't know how to frame this really. They catch three classes of failure at three very different stages. So like the validate is, it's valuable out of the gate. So you have your schema, you have your transport rules or some sort of constraints, and it never touches your container engines, like what's actually executing a thing. It's just making sure, hey, the file that we have is like ready to go. And then the plan is going to it's going to take that a step further. And it's, that proposed spec versus what is actually running, like we just discussed. And then the plan or the apply is what kind of touches everything and, deploys your environment. I think it's beautiful. It's elegant.
You know what? You're absolutely correct, because if you think about it, it's before all this stuff existed. Well, it works on my machine was always our answer.
Yes. I can't count how many times I've said that in my life.
And we're all guilty of it. Yeah, it works on mine. I don't know what's going on with yours. Yours is the same machine as mine, and no idea why. So I think that what you've built is, from that point of view, the validate, plan, and apply totally gets rid of that. And now it's like, no, it actually is going to work on everyone's machine once you install it, and it's going to let you know what's missing, and let's go ahead and schedule the plan, and let's go ahead and apply it. And now it's actually running in a simplistic way. Yeah, I'm saying it's simple, but what you designed was really complex to make it simple for us to digest. So that again is, really powerful. Another question out there is every mechanic there borrowed from infrastructure tooling. Why borrow at all? And what made Terraform's vocabulary the right fit for MCP servers? I personally would like to know that myself. That's genuinely interesting to me.
I love where you've gone with that question, because I think one thing that's a misnomer, or not kind of it's a misfire that I hear all the time, is like, there's tools, people either love or hate tools. Like, I love this tool, I love that tool, this is what I use, I will die on the hill of using this tool. So a lot of times what I see is like, okay, people don't like HashiCorp, or they don't like Terraform or OpenTofu, so therefore these verbs and these patterns they don't like. And one thing that I would say to everybody that listens to this is like, even if you don't like a tool out there, don't like throw shade on the patterns that underpin it, because those patterns might be really good. You just might not like the syntax or the DSL or something that the tool or the company does. But I think to your question, because the problem is kind of the same problem of infrastructure. Like if you think about it, like what is an MCP stack? It's a set of processes with authentication. It's some network reachability with different transports, and it's a blast radius in a sense. So that has to be reproducible and it has to be reviewable if it's infrastructure. That's infrastructure. That's what we want out of our infrastructure. And, at the end of the day, we want reliability. We want to know that if we push something or if we make a change, we know what the outcome is going to be. Like we understand it. It never stops being infrastructure because we are interacting with language models now. We are still dealing with infrastructure largely, whether we're running it locally or we start scaling out and we reach like multi-tenancy of sorts.
No, that's actually a really good answer. I like it. That completely makes sense to me. So yeah, no, yeah. At first I was wondering why, but now that actually fits. Don't worry about Terraform, as you said, and worry about the principle that what it applies. So that's actually really, really clever. I like that.
And Terraform and Kubernetes are two examples. Like how many companies do we know that run Terraform for infrastructure as code and they run Kubernetes for distributed scale of containers and microservices? Like
Almost.
the pattern obviously
Oh yeah.
is working.
Every enterprise I talk to is basically doing the same exact thing you said. So yeah, and not only that, it makes the language easier too because you already know these terms. So you're right; it just makes sense. So I 100% agree with that. Now I have two more questions for you, but this one here was interesting. Um, you've also in a blog article you've written something about named Containerlab as a direct inspiration. What did you take from it specifically?
So I'll just preface this by saying, like, I was an early user of Containerlab in the early days. Maybe this is why I decided to put more work into this tool, because I have taken and taken and taken. And one of the things I've taken as far as a community contribution, I have used the doors off Containerlab, both in a lab capacity and a production capacity. Containerlab's been huge. It's been very inspiring. And I think I'm going to try and do something here. I'm going to try and tie together the inspiration from Kubernetes, Terraform, and Containerlab. So let's do this. So from Containerlab specifically, in the stigma that exists, at least on the network engineering side of the house, because I've worked pretty closely on both ends, like networking and platform cloud teams. So the platform and cloud teams kind of got this quicker, but the network teams, network folks are always fighting fires. It's just really hard. It's really hard. And plus, no one just simply pushes changes out to a network to see what happens. If you cause an outage, you might get fired. So the Containerlab inspiration came back to like disposability and the psychology that comes with disposability. So Containerlab's insight is essentially one that a topology should be so cheap to destroy and rebuild that you stop treating it like your puppy, your pet. You blow that sucker away, you blow that lab away, you change a few lines and you bring it right back up and you learn something. Nobody does that with a handcrafted, artisan, hand-tended configuration that you don't know what's going to happen when you update a line. Because the cost of getting it back and working is an unknown. So instead, you poke at the running thing that's already running and you update it in place so nothing blows up. And so that's the inspiration from Containerlab. And when you tie in the Kubernetes, kind of gave me the choke point idea. The verbs came from Terraform. Containerlab gave me the disposability. And the disposability is the one actually that changes how you work. And it changed how I work day to day with labbing and building network gear. Like, it was hugely influential. And when you combine, like, a lot of the principles across these tools, or the patterns are very similar. They're just operationalized and built a little bit different. Taking the good ones that lend themselves to what you're building and the problem you're trying to solve is kind of where the magic happens.
That's a good point. That goes back to automation testing. It's having that, just spinning up, destroying it, spin up another one in a different format, like you said, and seeing if it actually give you the same results. So from a testing point of view, and also you've done a lot of automation in the past, I can see that inspiration, because that is, all of them are really solid inspiration from that standpoint. It's, giving you the capability of spinning up and down, modifying changes, making sure it's validated, and then scaling. So that's actually pretty clever, my friend. That's a kindred spirit of our learning path, is use all these different tools and then say, holy crap, I learned bits from these things and now put together, and now I got something cool. So that's actually a really good answer, man. I like that.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I think so.
No, I mean, honestly, this was one of the things for me that's why it's like, my customers laugh at me. I call myself a nerd because, we are, and we like to understand the technology, go a little deeper than the average human being, because we want to know what really makes it tick. And then we step out and said, oh, that'd be cool with this and that. And then now we have these problems that, solutions to massive problems that people didn't think of. And to me, this is a massive problem to this day. I mean, I forgot, was it like 3 to 4 months ago is when you showed me this first? And I still think it's going to be a huge problem going forwards, because now everyone is introducing AI throughout the entire organization, not just networking and security anymore. So now we're like, son of a gun, we need something. So
yeah.
The other question, last question I have for you on this, you draw a sharp line between GridCTL and enterprise data planes like an agent gateway. For teams moving from experimentation to production, where does the local loop stop and a Kubernetes native architecture becomes necessary?
Yeah, this is a really good question, because I work with a company that has Grid deployed in their lab, and I don't want to, I just won't go there. But basically, they are like, hey, when is there going to be something that we can buy? This is what we want. We want X, Y, and Z. And I don't know if I'll ever be there. I'm really happy. And the thing is, I'm the kind of person that's not going to push for something that's not there, or something that I don't have the heart to see through. So agent gateway is the one that comes up a lot. Like, oh, like, how does this differ from agent gateway? Because as humans, you automatically kind of want to draw a comparison. You want to compare apples to oranges to chocolate cake or something.
Yep.
I prefer the chocolate cake usually, but I think in one word, like tenancy and multi-tenancy. So Grid owns the loop where the blast radius is like your laptop, your stack, your lab environment at work. More lends itself more to like local host trust. And the moment you need like these, you have a fleet of agents, you have a multi-tenant identity organization, you have org-wide policy, just gigantic horizontal scale. Like, you have a 100,000 person org, and you have SLAs that you're paying for, and somebody's getting paged for, and you want a data plane built for that scale of challenges. And, agent gateway class infrastructure on Kubernetes is the right answer there. It's a lot. But the thing is, going into that, taking a gigantic enterprise-wide solution and using it for smaller use cases, prototyping, a lot of the things we've talked about, it's either overkill and it's going to maybe drive you nuts because there's a lot more work involved with getting it going in a sense. So, different problems, different solutions. And I don't know, maybe there's a niche place. I've actually been doing a lot of experimentation with I think it's actually a pretty novel idea for a paid offering that would be pretty cheap. I would probably just roll it out eventually it would be priced in which it recoups how much the infrastructure is under the hood. It's like I probably wouldn't make any money out of the gate, but it would be interesting to see people test it and then maybe grow it from there. But yeah, that's my sort of take on it.
No, I love it, man. And honestly, I see what you're saying because you're open source this for everyone to use, which we thank you. But it's like going the enterprise route. It's always that challenge. It's like, how much time do I actually have to dedicate and do something? Because even, doing your podcast, all of these things take up time and resources. And of course, we all have families. So, getting that time back, it's one of those things where it's like, do we not sleep and we just work every day? So it's one of those things from our standpoint that I like where you're going with it. And honestly, I'll give you some advice that I've been working with a lot of startups. What you exactly said, I've seen a lot of startups do exactly that, where they started to where, hey, I'm just going to charge whatever it costs the infrastructure, what you're saying. That portion of it, people pay money for. And even if they're like, hey, I need to increase it a little more because, some more overhead or something like that. Startups that's exactly how they've grown, brother. And you've been in this field so many times, but it's that time. It's how many times do we actually have to dedicate into that? But honestly, if you do go that route, I will definitely be telling all my customers about it as well. So I tell them all about GridCTL. So they are all looking into it because to me, it solves a massive problem that they have. And I have one guy have 50 MCP servers on his laptop, just one. And he's a team of 17 people. That's insane,
Yeah.
So you solve a massive problem. And that's where I like this conversation. And enough about it. No problem, brother. And enough about us talking about it. Let's go ahead and would you mind showing us a demo of what this actually looked like so everyone can see that, please?
Yeah, let me share. Hold on. Screen. Let me know if you can see my screen there. Oh, that's small. I need to make that bigger. There you go. So, yeah, for those out there, you can go to the GitHub, look at the examples, the documentation. I keep everything pretty up to date. And I also, one thing that's worth calling out is I went through the OpenSSF best practices program to actually go through and validate a lot of security related stuff. This is actually a very involved, pretty heavy process. And I'm actually working on trying to get to silver. But I'm actually doing it the right way and like learning along the way and really like I just don't want to do things and just to check a box. So I've been working on the silver for quite a while now, but we'll see if that happens. But yeah, just something to keep things on point on the, from the security side of the house.
Wow, that is very impressive. Honestly, I haven't heard of that one, so that is pretty good to know. I'm gonna have to check that out.
Yeah, it originated from originally the Linux Foundation, I think, but it's a great program. Anybody that's building anything open source and you really want, I think going into it with the idea that you want to understand, even if you don't get it and you don't get the badge, going through it is just very useful. But yeah, so I installed GridCTL already. So if I look at the version, I can see I'm running my, we just went to RC1 this last week. And if I look at the stack file, I'm going to do this and I'm going to actually run the web server as well. So I changed the name of this just before we got on the call. So the name of the gateway is going to be Sif the Maestro. I knew you would like that.
I appreciate that.
And I already have some secrets created in the vault. I didn't want to go through and do that, but I'll kind of show that off anyway in a second. So instead of actually, you know what? I'm just not even going to deploy any servers at first. Let's go ahead and just do, let's validate that stack file, kind of like what we were just talking about. And oh, so no authentication configured. This is my local thing. I'm not going to worry about doing that right now. But let's do a plan. And that's just going to tell me kind of like the same that you'd expect from Terraform, adding, updating, removing. So if I did a destroy, or I was going to do a destroy or remove things from the config, it would be red, and you'd have the stuff that would be getting removed. And then I haven't well, actually I should have just deployed that, but I'll go ahead and do that now. So I'm just going to go ahead and apply what I had in that file.
Mm-hmm.
And just do a status. Oops. So I see what's running. I see the PID, and this was a container that already existed, but it's not running because I don't have it defined in my config. So let's just go ahead and go over to let's see, browser. I'm just going to go ahead and open this because it's going to be available localhost out of the gate. So we see my gateway SIF the Maestro, 0 MCP servers, which means 0 tools. I guess before we get too ahead of and one thing too, I've actually gotten a few questions about this lately because I started using the light theme. I kind of like it quite a bit. But most folks out there really love the dark theme.
I get that all the time. I'm like, why? I'm like, I go by system. If it's nighttime, it switches to dark. If it's daylight, it switches to light. That's the way my brain works.
Exactly. Same here. I'm gonna switch back to light though because it's I favor it lately. I think it's easier on my eyes. Pause. I don't know, but. The first thing I wanted to show is like back to the security and variable question.
Mm-hmm.
Wrong passphrase. I fat fingered it. Maybe I didn't fat finger it. Hold on. Wow. There we go. I had my caps lock on. Good times. Always when you're doing a live demo.
Oh yeah.
So I added these. I actually had a fresh install on this machine right before we started, and I just went ahead and added these. So these are some of the secrets that I have set up. And one thing that I would say is like just making it easier to be secure is just something I wish more products would do these days. Like, instead of going out and having write a blog or heckling folks and doing things, like just make it easier to do the right thing. And that's what I've tried to do here as much as I can. So if you go and you add a new secret, hey, it doesn't have to be a one-to-one key value string. You can have a JSON blob. You can have a list of strings. You can have a number. You can have is it on or off, true, false. You can even have variables in plain text. And a lot of folks asked me why this is important. And the thing is, these stack files, what if you could version control them? So nothing is secret or specific in that stack file, because in the vault, you can say, hey, this is the plain text value for this container registry and this image, or this value or that value. And then you can trigger them, and then you can put them in different groups. Like my normal setup has like a ton of these groups, but you can create different variable sets that have a combination of both values and secrets, and just provide them automatically by defining it in the stack file, like secrets, set equals dev, so just something worth calling out, because I think that's a big part of the friction a lot of time.
I 100% agree, because make it easier, more I will use it. I'm the same way.
Yes.
It's like, oh wait, you got to go here, you got to write this, then you come back here, and then you do it. I'm like, and then restart. Oh, I forgot to restart. So I've seen products walk me through stuff like that. So this is actually really keeping it simple, brother. So continue, man.
Yeah, that's the point. And I guess the next thing, so let's add some skills. So like let's actually do something. So I'm going to go to the wizard and I want to add a skill. And basically, I just went to Anthropic's repo because they are the skills champions, I guess.
Yep.
If there was such a thing. So I'm going to scan that repo and it's going to pop up. Hey, I found 20 skills. These are what they are. Here's the descriptions, fast. Yada, yada, yada. So I'm like, okay, I can either select, hey, maybe I only want to have the PDF one, or maybe I want all of them. I don't know. I'll just take all of them now and bring them all in. Import complete. We are ready to rock 'em sock 'em. So,
dude, that is quick.
Yeah. And if I want to look at them, and another thing too, when these get updated, I just have to click this little button here and it'll pull all the updates for those skills as Anthropic updates them. And this is using Go, Git in the background, which is like the fully featured Git library of sorts for anything Go specific, really robust, kind of the standard. So say that I want to update one of these, I just kind of like want to make it mine. I can click on that sucker. I can look at the instructions. They're all kind of mapped out for how to use it. All the different things I would want to know. And hey, I can update it and open up my editor and have my side-by-side and update things specifically for me.
Nice.
Now, hey, what is the point of having these skills if I can't do anything? Like I have this Sif the Maestro gateway going on. I don't have anything running. So let's update that stack file. Actually, let's do it in truly ephemeral fashion. So I actually have a kind of a check that happens and like a sort of a hot reload in real time thing that happens. So if I update things in the UI, I can actually have a setting to say, hey, true, where when I update things in the UI, it updates the YAML in that stack file. Or if I update the things in the YAML and save it, it'll actually do a hot reload of the gateway if I have that enabled. And it will update the front end as well and what's running. But let's back to those principles that I was harping on a second ago.
No, that's actually pretty cool.
So I'm going to go ahead and just stop that. And then I'm going to edit the stack file. And I'm going to recomment that. Heck no, what did I just do? Why is it doing that? Hold on. There we go. So this is these are two different kinds of servers. So this is just going to pull this one. And it's going to reference it from NPX. And I'm sure a lot of you have heard of the Playwright MCP server. If you've ever done anything with MCP, it might be my most used server ever. I mean, to be honest, I use this thing all the time for testing for all sorts of things. And then this one is going to be a little bit different. So GitHub, it's actually going to pull this from GHCR, GitHub Container Registry, stdio. And then I'm just defining, and one thing that I've been working on, and you can do right now, it's not fully validated yet, but as long as your vault's unlocked, I don't even have to provide this env thing here. As long as I provide this secret setup here, it'll actually extrapolate the secret to the MCP server that it's in scope for and run it. So just a kind of a user-friendly-ish type of deal there. So let's go ahead and reapply this.
That is pretty neat.
Okay, so we have everything looks like it started correctly. Yep. Switch back to land. And one thing too, and I got this idea from the last startup I worked for. They had something kind of similar that we built. This is a while back, but this whole butterfly UI scheme, I really liked having that interactive topology I can kind of mess around with, because then I can say, now let me go to the minimal again, but I can say, okay, like GitHub has all these tools, and, maybe I want to know what one of these, like I want to look at it and I want to open up the tool and see, okay, what is the input schema? Kind of like what's going on here.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, one of the beautiful things too, and this is actually something I use all the time, is it's not going to work right now because I haven't ran anything. But say that I'm running GitHub's MCP for a few weeks, and I can do an audit, and it's going to go through and look at how many times each tool's been called, but it'll make a diff in a list of all the tools that haven't been used, and I can just automatically disable them so they're not even queried anymore with like one click.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I use that quite a bit, but this also helps. So there's an access lens feature. Well, I don't have any clients connected yet, so we'll wait on that. But so now when you think about it, we have the gateway, we have 2 MCP servers that we have running, but we don't have any clients. We don't, like, what are we doing? We can't interact with them. So that brings me to the connections. Now, you can do all this via CLI and the YAML file as well. So I could actually put clients in that YAML file and say, hey, I want this, this, and this to be linked for this topology. That's how I typically do it. But we will let's just link Claude, and I've been testing anti-gravity quite a bit lately. Let's just link both of those, and then we're going to review and apply. So it'll actually do a kind of like back to that validate and plan thing. On the left we have current, on the right we have after. And I have also a way to maximize this and make it a little prettier so you can actually read it, but that's coming in a later feature. So I'm just going to go ahead and apply these, and we are linked.
So that's actually updating that stack file?
Yeah.
Nice.
We now have these connected. So let's try and do something. Why not? I dropped there's so many things you could possibly do. I wasn't really thinking about it too much. So this is going to be kind of off the cuff. So I dropped my AC4 slides from AutoCon 4. The whatever MCP is not an API, or I forget what the title was, but
yeah, I think it was MCP is not an API.
Yeah, so we should be able to. There we go. So now, like, whether it's Claude code, no matter, it'll actually go and scan on my machine and show me all the LLM, the clients that exist. And then you saw, I could just, select the ones I want to link. And I am definitely not going to use Fable for this. Let's do Opus. It's still awesome, but less crazy. Now, there we go. So we can, all those Claude, those skills that we just imported through that wizard are now available in here. So I'm just going to select the PowerPoint one.
Oh, that is sick.
Oops. Very poorly framed, using too many words. But basically, hey, using what I have here, examine the PowerPoint I got in this directory, just treat it as like a general template, and then, copy it and create a new PowerPoint that has updates based on how the tech has changed. Because I think I gave that talk, I think it was like a year ago. I can't remember. So let's see what happens. Let's see if this works. And this works in your desktop stuff too, like Claude Desktop and all those. So Yeah, it would be kind of the same thing for Claude Desktop. You'd open it up and you'd launch skills the way that you launch
You
skills
read
in
my
Claude
mind.
Desktop.
That's exactly what I was about to ask you. So folks that are not familiar with Claude Code can still use it as the chat feature. So that's awesome. And probably co-work as well, because it's all the same connectivity. So I like
Yeah.
the fact that it broke it up and say MCP GridCTL PowerPoint skill. So it's actually showing you that chain of how it's accessing this information as well.
Yeah. And there's a reason for that, actually. There's a lot of reasons for that. But even the way that the tools are named and what they're prefixed with, like you don't want tool collisions because you might have MCP servers from different vendors that have the same names for tools, and there's just different things. So you want to make sure everything's unique. But hey, why this is running? Because this might take a second. Let's go back and I'll go through. I think some of the other things in the UI that honestly make me excited. So at the top here, like we kind of went over library, variables, tools. Let's look at logs. So now you'll start, since we have something running, you're going to see logs coming up. And I mean, if
nice.
like logs are basically what has happened. So the gateway daemon writes them, and then GridCTL is going to tail them, and it's structured JSON, so you can actually grep them via the CLI, like if you would want to. See, there we go. Review, blah 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 blah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And everything's searchable. You can filter by MCP servers, all that good stuff. So basically, hey, this is when, hey, something is broken. You need the sequence of events. And then this part actually took a lot of time and thinking and just all sorts of stuff. But this is, consider it like the equivalent of tracing in the K8's world. But traces are, so if logs are what happened, traces are how it happened. So think like one tool call fans out through the gateway to like a downstream server and stitches those spans back together with like the timing on each one. So that's kind of like the answer to the question, hey, why did something take 10 seconds and it shouldn't have,
Oh, wow. And this is where you can see all that timing. Like, for example, maybe my prompt's terrible, maybe the skill's terrible. You can actually see these things going on. Or, hey, GitHub was down yesterday. You can make an API call.
GitHub's down every day, it seems like these days. It's killing me.
Yeah, a lot of us. So it's one of those things where, now I can see, we get up all their calls failed. But this is actually pretty sick, man. I can see why this took a while.
Yeah. And I think the other one, metrics are pretty, so I don't have any history in here because this is like a fresh install. But this, I actually leaned this out, so it was much more complicated and I was doing much more with it. But if I look at the tools and I can see which tool, like the input and output usage. So if you think about it, like logs are what happened, traces are how it happened. I think that's how I said it. And metrics are how much. So tokens in, tokens out, per server, per tool, per client, plus like all the call counts and all that. So that matters because context is the scarce resource right now. So a server like nobody has called in 3 weeks is still shipping its tool schemas on every single prompt you send. And so metrics is how you find that. And then you do a GridCTL optimize. And that's how you get told about it in plain language. And then you can stop it from happening.
So the GridCTL optimize, is that built into the UI or is that CLI driven?
So I've taken the stance, everything in the UI is very much intentional and ties back to backend directly. I do not do anything in the UI at all unless it is in line with the backend stuff, just as a matter of principle. That's something I learned the hard way over the years in startup land.
Oh yeah.
Something that was kind of a gripe, and I'm just like, if I ever build something, I'm like dying on that hill. We're not going to play games there.
Yep, like I tell everyone, is if you build something, build the API along with it. If you don't, I won't use it.
Exactly. Yeah, 100%. Um, and I think the last thing that I'd probably want to show here, pens. Um, okay, so this drift, I had Atlassian up before we talked. So I was doing something with Atlassian, but now it's not up. So it still detects the drift.
Mhm.
So basically what would happen is if you have pens are a little bit different than this other stuff. So the first three are kind of like, that we talked about are kind of like watching traffic. Pens watch the servers themselves. So like when a server first registers, the GridCTL records the um oh canonical shape of its tool schemas and descriptions. So kind of like trust on first use mentality. So if that shape changes later, you want to hear about it because a tool description, again, is a prompt. So an upstream server can quietly rewrite one after you've already trusted it. And your agent will read the new instructions without breaking a sweat. And they call that a rug pull there. So, and a pen is kind of that tripwire that you want to, in my normal setup, like schemas are changing all the time. I have a list of these things down to like the floor, and so I can approve these schemas and I can actually look at them and just make sure that we're staying consistent. So definitely a useful thing to have.
No, this is crazy, man. I mean, from my standpoint, what you've built here is a product. I know it's open source, but for me, speaking and using tools for forever, you gave me observability. You've given me insights into how the tools are being used. You've also put in some security guardrails on there. That pins, that one's new to me from the version I have on my laptop. That's insane. I'm definitely going to go upgrade and check out all these new stuff that you actually have out there. Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So this, I mean, we're not gonna wait until this slide deck's done because it's what
Yeah.
it's doing is it's actually going back and it's saying, hey, like you can see it's calling the model context protocol documentation, the spec, and it's looking at some stuff on GitHub. It's grabbing all this stuff to see what's changed based on what I talked about in these slides. And then it's going to rebuild the PowerPoint for me. So we don't
That's
want to wait for all
insane.
that to happen because that would take a while.
Yep.
But yeah, thank you for that. I mean, I appreciate the words of confidence there. I really do. And thank you also for being, I think you were one of the earlier folks that tested for me. And you even had some really good ideas at the end of the day as well. So it
For,
was really awesome getting to work with you on that.
no, likewise. I mean, for me, honestly speaking, this, it's a game changer for me because, like I said, I'm always spinning up MCP servers, testing and doing different things. And to me, this is now, my library of, I just started messing with Hermes agents, and I like
Right.
pain. I like messing around with, you're the same. But now I'm spinning up different bots. Now I'm going to try having the bots spin up different stacks in GridCTL for me based off of that. So now I can control it automatically. So that's something that I'm going to be doing this weekend. So, of
And I
course,
only side because I've been on that path for about I did like a simple Hermes setup a while back, but I have it like fully in the lab now, and I'm actually self-hosting. I started out with Gateway LLM or whatever the public version is, and I'm using Light LLM now. Um, Open Router, that's what it was, Open Router. So I was using Open Router for a little bit, but I have a whole bunch of I mean, you know me, I have some hardware and I have some uh, I do some machine learning and I have some GPUs. I'll just leave it at that. So I'm running a lot of local models at home. And for a lot of work now, when you have the frontiers kind of knock out the logic behind it, you can send a lot of those tasks so you're saving tokens to your local model and never have to pay for another token again there. And it's amazing. So Herms and I heard it pronounced Hermes as well. Like there's all sorts of pronunciations, but that agent framework, the way they do the sandboxing, the way that it self learns about what you're doing, and it's pretty awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and that's where for me, it's like that's my next thing is just the bot spinning up your GridCTL for the stack that I need, run what I need, because I'm trying to build some unique use cases, and GridCTL gives me that where here's the skill automatically, everything is in the stack, and by using a YAML file, which makes it really easy for me to read and understand, instead of a massive JSON payload or some Python script. And I'm like, well, I don't trust your Python script. So these are
Yeah.
those things, putting on that security hat. I have trust issues. You've kind of alleviated a lot of that for me where I can say to my customers, hey, use this in your enterprise. Don't worry about it. Here's what it's doing. It shows you the entire path, gives you that visibility. And now it's like, oh, I would pay money for this thing and it's free. This is insane.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I actually went on Packet Protector. They had me on to talk through the security, the crypto side of the secrets management. We go deep, like deeper than I thought we were going to go. So, yeah, if I don't know when that drops. I think it drops this week or next week. But if you're interested in the crypto aspect and the hashing and some of the algorithms on the back end and kind of how they differ from why it's not a full-fledged secrets product, but it doesn't mean that it's handling the values that it has is any less encrypted. So we go into a lot of good stuff there. They were a very gracious host and asked a lot of great questions. So yeah, check it out whenever that drops. I think it'll be interesting if you are interested in security things.
Oh, I'm personally will check that out because I am, and that's something for me that's near and dear to my heart too. Like routing and switching is security. It's like one of those things we nerd out on. So I definitely
Yeah,
will check that out. For anyone
fun.
else, thank you very much. I appreciate you doing this with me. And for anyone else, where can they find you, and how can they learn more or contribute?
Yeah, I'm open. So the contributing.md, the contribution guidelines are all up there. I've had some contributors from the community already. Yeah, if you see something, and I am pretty tight on the constitution and everything. I want to keep in the lane that it's supposed to be in. So just keep that in mind. So if you do try to contribute, take a look and understand where the project's at and where it's not going at the moment. But you can find me all over socials these days. So LinkedIn, William-Collins. Everywhere else, I'm macro engineered now because I needed a more of like a stage name because I was going to get in, start producing more content, which hasn't materialized quite yet, but it's coming. So macro engineered on Twitter, X, YouTube, TikTok, Insta. And then I love writing. We talked about this before. I've been blogging for ages, long time. That's one of the things I don't let AI touch still. I like my writing. I like my headspace. So I write at wcollins.io. And yeah.
No, that's awesome, man. Thank you so much for taking the time out to chat about this and sharing your knowledge. I appreciate you, my brother. So have a good
Thank
one.
you, sir.